You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
So happy you could join me here today for this Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, where I can't wait to talk with you about how to lose that last 5 pounds. This is one of those podcasts that's going to go against the grain. I'm not going to be telling you that you should be exercising more. I'm not going to be telling you that you should be dropping your calories. None of those things. Because when someone is sitting around that last 5 pounds to maybe 10 pounds, what we're really talking about is other issues beyond the metabolism, meaning like it's other issues beyond are they exercising enough or are they taking in too many calories? What's their caloric expenditure? What does their basal metabolic rate look like? It's beyond that. That is for other people when you're trying to lose 20 pounds or more, 50 pounds or more, 100 pounds or more. And I've actually broken it down before on a previous podcast. I went into on those previous podcasts what to do when you need to lose 50 or more pounds, what to do when you need to lose 20 or more pounds. And as we start to get down to the last 5 to 10 pounds, we're going to move away from actually trying to increase the metabolic rate, although it's not a bad thing, but actually look at what is holding you back from keeping that last 5 pounds off the body. And a lot of times, as we know, it's that last 5 pounds that's just sticking there right around the middle, right around the belly button, or sometimes right on top of the hips. Right in that area are people's problem spots, as we call it, right? The trouble spots. It's really not that much of a trouble if we're looking to lose just 5 pounds. But, for a lot of people, they want it all, right? They want the health, but they also do want to be in great shape. And I don't see anything wrong with that at all. It might not be your goal, and that's totally fine. Like, without a doubt, totally fine. You don't need to lose that last 5 pounds if you already have a healthy BMI for the most part, if you have a healthy waist-hip ratio. If you're in overall good health, then you know what? I applaud you, meaning like you made it. That is absolutely fantastic. And then it's your choice of whether you want to get the stomach flatter, whether you want to get that physique just a little bit more tighter, a little bit more trim, a little bit more toned. And again, we've been doing this for so many years that I love to be able to talk on topics like this, because this brings me back, 20 years ago when I started in this industry. And again, it actually has been that long. It's funny, but when I look at it, I was in college and I was a personal trainer and I loved it so much. Meaning like I, as they say, fell into personal training because I could do nothing about my health. I could do nothing about my health because doctors could not help me get well. The best specialist in Boston, I talk about this all the time, like I'm Humpty Dumpty. The best specialist in Boston, the best doctors in Boston couldn't put me back together again. They couldn't. They looked at my labs and they said, it doesn't seem like anything's too bad. You shouldn't be so sick. But the problem was that I was, right? I had swollen glands. I had pains in my abdomen. I would get hot flashes. My heart rate would spike as I would walk up the stairs. I would get lightheaded when I stood, and I would actually feel like I was going to pass out. I couldn't sleep at night. I was a complete insomniac. My joints hurt. It felt like I had flu-like symptoms all the time. Yet they were telling me that there was nothing actually wrong with me. Now, later, of course, I was diagnosed with a bunch of different diseases, right? I had Addison's disease and myalgic encephalomyelitis, and I had POTS, and I had rheumatoid arthritis, and I had type 2 diabetes. I had all of these things, right? Well, okay, I had them, but at the same time, still, besides taking pharmaceutical drugs, modern, in air quotes, conventional medicine couldn't tell me how to get well. So here's what I did. I started to change my body because my body was failing. It was literally failing me. So I said, I can't run anymore because I tore my Achilles tendon my senior year of high school. Why don't I start getting into weightlifting? And I have a very obsessive personality. You might have already surmised that. But what I did was I just started to read, and I read, and I read. I would take biology and all of that in college as an undergrad. But of course, I'm on my own and I'm studying books on nutritional biochemistry, and I'm studying advanced physiology and anatomy, and I'm looking at how the body works. And I just found it so fascinating. Honestly, it was probably the first time in my life that I was fascinated about any subject beyond my first love, which I've shared this before. Some of you may already know this, but when I was growing up, I always wanted to be an archaeologist. Always. That was like my dream. And then I watched this was even before that, because I loved studying about paleontology. I loved studying about dinosaurs. I was a strange kid, trust me. I'm still a strange adult, but I was an even stranger child. And so when I would watch movies, then I'd watch movies like Indiana Jones. And it was like this amazing movie. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. So all of that changed though, right? All of that sometimes changes in life, and we never know who it's going to happen to. And a lot of people that become naturopathic doctors, or they become nurses, or they get into natural health in general, was because they went through their own health-based issue. And it's a beautiful thing. It's an absolutely fantastic thing. Then they want to share it with others. And so that's why we do it, right? So I went through my own health issue at 17, and I never looked back. To me, this is my form of archaeology. What did I do? Well, I literally went all around the world, and I didn't think of this at the time, but I literally went all around the world in search of answers. I went to remote parts of India. I was in Sri Lanka, an island that most people don't even know about, right? I was studying in Europe, and I was studying all over the U.S. with practitioners you most likely never heard about because they're not famous, quote unquote. But what they are brilliant masters of their craft. And what I said was, I don't care who the gurus are out there right now. What I want to know are the people who truly know their stuff. I want that same knowledge, and then I want to integrate it into one practice where we can help people truly lose weight, get well, and transform their lives. Now, as I started the Cabral concept, I understood this, that people need a win in life. They need to begin to feel better. And what we found, and this has been now decades worth of data for myself when I was training back in college, to the personal training student that we still have today, and also the concierge private functional medicine practice that we have virtually all over the world and in Boston, right? We have two different practices. And we say this, listen, if we can help you change your body, we know that once you change your body, you're going to have the energy, you're going to have the drive, you're going to have the ambition, and you're going to have the vitality to then go on and change your life. That's what all the motivation and mindset Mondays are about. Because we know we can help you make the change. We just need you to believe in yourself just enough in order to get started. So what we do is we help people lose weight first in our practice, right? We help them lose weight first. And that's because so much changes in the body when you're helping someone lose weight if, and only if, you're doing it through a wellness-based modality. That's why these are called Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesdays. Because the way that we help people lose weight is actually by helping them get healthy. So what we do is we help to rebalance that thyroid. And I don't care, honestly, if someone's been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, whatever it might be. We look at the underlying root causes. We look at the mineral-based deficiencies of the thyroid. We look at the toxicities of the thyroid. And we go to work on those. We also look at what the adrenals are doing to the thyroids, right? And then we're looking at what's the stress doing to the adrenals. So as an integrative health practitioner, my job is to continue to ask why, right? It's why. Why is the thyroid imbalanced? Why do you have Hashimoto's? Okay, it's your adrenals. Well, why are your adrenals stressed? Right? Well, it's your hypothalamus and pituitary gland sending the signals. Okay. Well, why are they sending those signals? And we look at the viruses, the gut-based issues, the work, life, the emotional-based things that are attached to that. We look at all those things. We work with people on a true holistic level. WHOL, holistic. We look at the entire person. That's what hopefully the rain barrel effect was teaching you as well, is that we look at the diet, the exercise, right? We look at stress. We look at toxins. We look at rest. We look at emotional balance. We look at supplement-based protocols. And we look at having the success mindset with understanding that you might not get it right today, tomorrow, or even next month. But if you stay down this healing path and you stay on this path of really trying to rev up that metabolism and lose the weight, you're going to achieve it. You might fail over and over. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But you will eventually get there. I mean, I use myself as a prime example. I was not supposed to get well. I would not preach this to you if I did not see it happen with my own eyes, right? I was not supposed to get well. All the best specialists, right, from Harvard University with dual degrees in MIT and Harvard Medical, Tufts University, Boston University, at some of the best hospitals in Boston, they told me that you were just going to have to live with this disease and manage it to the best of your ability. That's it. And hope you don't die at a young age of all the different viruses that you have, right? Epstein-Barr virus and everything else. That hopefully you don't die of the low cortisol, right? With Addison's space disease. Or rheumatoid arthritis doesn't affect your heart and everything else, right? I was told all of these things. And as a young child, I was 17 years old. These are debilitating for your mindset. But whatever it was, and I don't know to this day, right? Whatever it was, something inside me said, I'm not going to accept this. I'm simply not going to accept it. And so what I did was I moved down the path. I failed and I failed and I failed for 10 years. 10 years, right? And there were some really dark times within the 10 years. However, after about 4 to 5 years, I started to get a little bit better, right? And I would relapse, yes. And I would get a little bit better and I would relapse. But now I would see that I'm moving in the right direction. Finally, I met my mentor. She helped me pull it all together. She gave me the path to go down and I just ran with it. I've never looked back to this day. And that's why it is the Cabral Concept message to simply share this knowledge with you that I've accumulated over what feels like a lifetime. It is my lifetime. It's not that long, though, 20 years, to now be able to share it with you, and hopefully you'll be able to share it with others as well. That was a long intro into how do I help you lose that last 5 pounds. But you have to understand, for those people that are struggling, and they've always been struggling to lose that last 5 to 10 pounds, it's because you're looking at surface level things. You're looking at, how can I try to starve myself or over-exercise in order to keep that last 5 or 10 pounds off? But that's never the answer. And the reason is this: it's unsustainable. It is absolutely unsustainable. You wear the body down to too far a degree, and you create too many free radicals in the body. People don't yet get this, but they will. They will eventually understand this. I love exercise. I exercise myself. I'm a huge proponent of it. We have our studio, Stephen Cabral Studio in Boston, where we work with over 1,000 people or 1,000 appointments a month, right? We do that. I'm a huge believer, but not in over-exercising. The research is out there, but they don't understand it. They're not looking at it. When you over-exercise, you're actually creating greater free radical damage in the body. That's actually creating greater amounts of inflammation, which is stressing the body and not enabling you to actually lose the weight and heal. And I talk about this from a stress-based perspective. Again, those people who overstress their body have higher levels of cortisol. You could tune into episode 957 to check that out. Just go to stephencabral.com/957. It's just one episode, but it will show you that anything that causes a large amount of stress in the body is going to inflame you, create a dysfunctional immune system, and cause you to gain weight in the long run. And that's been proven. And I go through the physiology right there. So what I want to talk about today, if you are struggling to lose that last 5 pounds, it's not because you don't diet enough, and it's not because you're not exercising enough, okay? You might actually be dieting too much and over-exercising. And so oftentimes we need to actually have people just stop, not dieting, keep a good, healthy nutrition plan, but actually stop exercising for a week. Allow the inflammation to die down. If you maintain weight or you actually lose weight after not exercising for a week, you can almost guarantee yourself that the level of exercise or type of exercise that you're doing is creating inflammation, which is forcing you to have dysregulated blood sugar and hormones, which is also forcing you to hold on to excessive water weight. Because for most people that, again, have been eating well and exercising, that last 5 pounds to even 10 pounds is just toxic water weight that has to do with inflammatory-based foods, food sensitivities, and hormone imbalances. So let's talk about that right now. The first thing I need you to understand is that if a lot of the weight that you hold around your middle and it looks puffy, your body looks a little bit swollen, it looks a little soft, it's most likely inflammation. The first best place to look is food sensitivities. We're not talking about allergies. We're not also talking about poor digestive intolerance-based foods where you eat them and you get gas, you get bloating, you get constipation, you get burping, you get belching, you get acid reflux, right? If you have any of those, well, there's just a sure sign that your body has an excess of bacteria in your stomach, low hydrochloric acid potentially, H. pylori, parasites potentially, but most likely Candida overgrowth or SIBO and or SIBO. The easiest way to find out if that's you, meaning like if you eat foods, you get bloating, you get gas, you get belching, any one of those things. If you have one of those things, run an organic acids test and ideally a stool test. That will tell you if you have Candida overgrowth, if you have Clostridium difficile-based markers, if you have Klebsiella overgrowth, E. coli overgrowth, H. pylori, or parasites. It's so simple to do. You can do it right at home in the privacy of your own home, mail it into the lab. I personally read your results. I create a plan, a personalized wellness plan with one of my health coaches for you. You get on the phone with them, and they give you the plan. You get better. That's how it works. So literally, I will link those up today at stephencabral.com/971. If you want to run the labs, you're welcome to, but I'm going to give you all of the different steps to take, and then you choose what the best plan is for you. That's it. Now, let's say you don't have the bloating, you don't have the belching, you feel fine when you eat foods. Well, here's one other issue, is that you could be eating foods that are very healthy for you. Some very healthy ones that show up on a food sensitivity test all the time are cranberry, believe it or not, cranberry, papaya, avocado, sometimes garlic, and a few different types of nuts, such as almonds. Okay, these are very healthy foods. I see them quite often. Now, anything can come up on a food sensitivity test. We run a food sensitivity test that looks at 94 healthy foods. And again, these aren't our labs, so I just want you to know that. These are not our labs. If you're working with a local functional medicine doctor or integrative health practitioner, you can decide to run their labs. But just make sure that they know how to implement a program, right? It's one thing to read a lab. It's another thing to be able to implement a program, or I like to call them protocols, based on your results. So what you find, though, is if you're eating a food, it could be eggs, it could be dairy, it could be asparagus, right? If you're eating a food and it's an IgG sensitivity, it means that you will have a delayed reaction 24 to 72 hours later. Well, what does this mean? Well, it means that your body is going to create some type of inflammatory reaction when those immune cells see that protein from a food that it's deemed to be a sensitivity, right? That it's deemed to be a pathogen. That means over 24 to 72 hours, you will start to look a little bit more puffy, hold a little bit more water. Why? Because that's what inflammation does to the body. Inflammation makes the body look swollen. The easiest way to look at that is if you get stung by an insect or a bee and your hand blows up, or you get punched, in the arm, we'll say, and your arm blows up, or you fall and you hit your leg and your leg blows up. That is inflammation, right? Well, think about that over the entire body, and namely around the stomach, right? Namely around the gut. Think about that with systemic-based inflammation, how you could easily hold a couple percent of your body weight, right? Let's just say you hold 1 to 2% of your body weight. Well, if you weigh 180 pounds, what is that? Well, it's 3.6 pounds, right? 3.6 pounds just right there, okay? Add 3%, now you're asking me to do harder math. But what do we say it was? 1.8, 3.6, 4.6, about what? 5.6 or something like that? 5.4, 5.4, okay, somewhere around there. Doing podcasting is without a doubt a right brain activity, and doing math at the same time is a left brain activity. So that could be a little bit of a challenge, as I've demonstrated many times on the podcast. So here's the thing, though, all kidding aside. What we need to do is we can then look at food sensitivities as well. First, look at the digestive process, but also look at food sensitivities, because you don't know, oftentimes you just don't know the foods that you ate 2 days ago that could be causing inflammation today. Another dead giveaway that it's food-based or digestive-based is this. This is very important to remember and then pass on to clients and friends and family and coworkers and all that. When you wake up in the morning, does your stomach look flat? Right? When you wake up in the morning, does your stomach look flat? Are you 3 to 5 pounds lighter when you wake up in the morning versus when you go to bed? If you are, now there 1% might change. There might be a little percent because of dehydration. But if you feel like your stomach's flat and it looks flat when you wake up, you're looking at some type of digestive-based inflammation and digestive-based issues that, again, you can find on an organic acids test and stool test. Then if you can, add the food sensitivity test. You will be able to begin to realize what's going on internally within your process of your body. Now, I was just working with this client. He's getting fantastic results. It's only been literally 3.5 weeks. He's very dedicated. He's a very kind of type A, go type person. He's implemented it beautifully. But his phrase was this: at the end of the day, my stomach always looked like a turtle shell. That's what he said to me. And he'll know if he's listening to this podcast that it's him. He's in California. And it was a great term. It looks like a turtle shell. That's basically what it looks like. It just looked bloated. Well, all we did was look to see, did he have candida overgrowth and bacterial overgrowth? Did he have H. pylori? Did he have parasites? Did he have food sensitivities? The answer was yes. He had food sensitivities. He had candida overgrowth. He did not have bacterial overgrowth. He did not have H. pylori. He did not have parasites. So what do? We worked on the candida overgrowth, and we removed the food sensitivities. We put him on an easier to digest diet for the first 3 weeks and already got the results right away, right? So now we'll just make additional tweaks to make sure it's absolutely perfect for him. That's what it's about, right? It's about bio-individualization so that it's going to allow you to get those same results. Now, what could you do? You could do an elimination diet if you don't want to do the food sensitivity test. You could cut out all the main inflammatory foods, and it could be the dairy, and it could be the eggs, which a lot of people don't even think about. It could be gluten. It could be a lot of the leafy greens, just hard to digest. So you're going to eliminate things that you think might be problem-based foods for you. And then look, when you wake up in the morning, does your stomach feel flatter? Does it look flatter? Do you feel lighter? So you want to start to get clues from how you're living your life. Okay, besides food-based, besides digestive-based, here are a couple more reasons that we see all the time in our practice, and that's this. Estrogen dominance from a functional-based perspective. Here's what this means. You go to your PCP, you run your estrogen levels, you run your progesterone levels. They're both within range. Got it, okay? Most women's are. Honestly, they are. But from a functional-based perspective, here's what we see. We see normal levels of estrogen, and I've spoken about this before, normal levels of estrogen, but low levels of progesterone. From a functional-based perspective, they're both in range. But the estrogen is about mid-range and the progesterone is at the bottom end of the range, which means that they have what's called relative or functional estrogen-based dominance. This means that women who have this and men as well, but women predominantly are going to be more prone to holding more weight all over, especially in the hips, okay? So what does this look like? Well, if a woman has estrogen dominance, she's going to typically be a little bit lower mood. She's going to feel like she's gaining a little bit more weight. It's harder for her to lose weight. She feels a little bit puffier. She might have more PMS-based symptoms if she's premenopausal. She might have a little bit of acne-based issues, could be right around the chin. She might get a little bit more bloated, especially a week or so before she gets her menstrual cycle. All of these things show a functional-based level of estrogen-based dominance. And it makes it much harder to keep the water weight off. So much so that oftentimes women start to look a little bit puffier, women with estrogen dominance, and they feel like they're getting a little bit more cellulite, which has to do with a lot of this toxicity. And remember, cortisol, toxicity, and estrogen blend as like a trifecta. I'll do a whole podcast on that in the future as well, of how to create cellulite. So what do we need to do? Well, what we need to do is actually control, and again, that's why I want you to go back to this podcast, episode 957, on controlling cortisol levels. Because if you can't control cortisol levels, you can never hope to get out of estrogen balance. And here's the problem that I have with this, is that we have so many doctors right now, and they're calling themselves functional medicine doctors. And again, I appreciate you trying to do a more natural-based perspective, but by giving a woman more estrogen and more progesterone is not asking why. You have to ask, why does that woman have less estrogen or have less progesterone? And for you to say, well, she's going through menopause or whatever it might be, is not enough. It's not enough. That's not the why, right? That's not the why. The why typically is, well, there's some type of stressor, again, heavy metals, stress, emotional, work-based, whatever it might be, relationships. It could be viruses, immune dysfunction. It could be someone's in pain, right? They're having pain that's causing a stressor, a proprioceptive peripheral-based stressor on the body. It could be food sensitivities. It's anything that's stressing the body, gut-based issues, and it's causing this cortisol-based cascade. When this happens, we are going to see very predictably lower levels of progesterone. It's one of the main reasons why we see so many fertility-based issues now, right? There's more stress. There's more stress than ever. And there's more stressors in the body. There's more toxicity than ever, which is also a stressor. So what we need to do is we actually need to see, is there estrogen dominance? Because if there is, well, we ask why. And so by doing that, we then say, okay, let's calm this HPA axis. When we do that, it's going to boost the thyroid. It's going to lower estrogen dominance. And then women can lose weight, as well as men, without trying. Why do we say without trying? Well, of course, they have to try. They try to get their body healthier. But the interesting thing is this, they're not trying to lose weight, right? Because what we did was we just balanced what are called homeostatic processes within the body. And as we balance those, the body gets healthier. And remember, a healthy body is never overweight. It is never overweight. That's the interesting thing. You will go to your body's natural weight without trying. That's the amazing thing about the human body. So you can test all those levels on what's called a thyroid adrenal hormone lab. But remember, I just gave you all of the symptoms as well, right? A little bit of bloating, feeling puffiness, cellulite, maybe some acne around the chin, or excessive facial hair overgrowth or any facial hair overgrowth as well, lowered mood, feeling definitely more down, a little bit more brain fog, all symptoms of estrogen dominance. I'll do a whole podcast on that for sure in the future. Cellulite, estrogen dominance, cortisol, no doubt about it. I will absolutely do that. I'd be happy to do that. If you're interested, just let me know. And what I want you to see, though, is that I want you to understand that all of these things that I just spoke about, literally all of them that I just spoke about, the inflammation, even from gut-based issues, right? Because when you go too hard with exercising, it will leave less energy and less ability to actually get the digestive system up and ramped up. So here's what I want to say, is that when you're down and you're struggling to lose that last 5 pounds, maybe 10 pounds, I want you to think about this, is that it is very unlikely it has to do with your diet in terms of calories in, and very likely to do with your exercise in terms of calories out. You could try to push it. You absolutely can. You can absolutely try to push it to get yourself down that 5 pounds, but it won't stick, meaning that you're not going to get the permanent results that you want, and you're going to have to over-exercise, which is why when we see on shows like The Biggest Loser, and again, I have no problem with that, but is that the weight loss doesn't stick, because doing 6 hours of exercise a day, even 2 hours of exercise a day, is unsustainable. It's not. It's just not sustainable. So what we need to do is this. Let's make it easier on ourselves. Let's figure out what the underlying root causes are. Let's figure out what that tack is in the elephant's foot, right? What is it? And that we can repair, we can take the pain away from the elephant, not by, laying it on its side or like that, but simply pulling out that tack. And it's the same exact thing with natural health, our bodies, our wellness, and living longer, right? To the best of our ability, is figuring out what are the things, right, that are holding you back. What are the levers that we need to pull that if we did that, you would begin to rebalance your body, and all of these symptoms, such as that last 5 pounds of just water weight, inflammatory water weight, toxic water weight, would go away. So my highest recommendation is that you can simply do some type of an elimination-based diet. And you do something like a 7-day, 14 or 21-day Dr. Cabral detox, or the functional medicine detox of your choice, or you decide to dig even deeper. And by digging deeper, you might look at gut-based issues, and you might look at your organic acids test. You might look at a stool test, or you may look at a food sensitivity test first to see, are there foods that you are sensitive to that you're eating unknowingly on a daily basis because they're healthy foods that are causing you to retain water, that are causing you to be inflamed. Or if you have some of those symptoms of estrogen dominance, maybe you do run a thyroid adrenal hormone test. I'm just such a big advocate of the functional medicine testing, and it's like I said in the very beginning, that is the way that I was able to put things together. It was a doctor showing me that, listen, if you really want to figure this out, we can do that. We need to look at what the underlying root causes are. And although she didn't explain it to me in the exact terms that I'm explaining it to you today, we need to figure out what your deficiencies are, and we need to replace those. We need to figure out what your toxicities are, and we need to decrease those if it's cortisol or if it's estrogen, or we need to remove them if those toxicities are actual environmental-based issues, or even things like heavy metals, candida, SIBO, parasites, H. pylori, etc. So hopefully today's podcast was helpful. I'm always happy to do follow-ups. I really am. I'm here to give you that message and to really allow you then to share it with others. So, of course, as I always say, if you found the show helpful, please do feel free to pass along to anyone else it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing, and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equi.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.